Hey everybody, my name's Dan Lucart and I am Barefoot Tesla. We're going to take another look at FSD 10.1 from beta tester Frenchie. Alright, so in this case we get a little bit of curb clipping. He doesn't actually clip a curb, but it definitely gets too close to the curb. So let's rewind it and have another look. Now, let's talk about how the car is approaching turns. What it's doing, I believe, is putting a node right here in the middle of intersections. And it, based on the trajectory from this road and this road, it meets in the middle. And then based on the angle that it calculates, it'll attempt to apply the appropriate pulling force to pull the car into its new lane, or excuse me, new road, and then continue onwards. So it's doing that a little bit more severely than normal because of the angle of this road, but it's all working out pretty good. You can see here that the visualization is taking it a little bit close to the curb, but if it were to play out, it wouldn't be the end of the world. This is something that I notice with various AI programs. If you look at how like AlphaZero plays chess or AlphaGo plays Go, is the machine doesn't care if it wins by a little or a lot. And it'll do very peculiar moves sometimes that are just seemingly bad moves. And then you realize that the machine is giving up maybe a slight advantage to bring the game to a conclusion a little bit quicker. It doesn't care if it wins by a slight positional margin or anything like that. I think a little bit of that is in play here. The machine doesn't care really how close it gets to the curb, absent of any like hard coding to say, okay, you must stay X amount of distance away from the curb, which I think actually, as I'll kind of rehash at the end, would be actually a good suggestion for Tesla. So as it's going around, I want to go frame by frame. I want to show you what happens as we get to the point of the curb. Notice the angle that the car will make with the curb, and then the curb disappears. So the car can't see the curb. The vehicle is very good at detecting curbs in straight lines. But you notice from the perspective of the cars and the car's camera, it's only going to see the tip of the curb. So I think this situation with curb detection could be improved by training the vehicle on more of this angle of the curb. So maybe they could queue out, like they could query the fleet and say, hey, if it's like a pointed curve like this, send us that image and then we can train on that. But then as the car continues forward, it can't make the adjustment. The curb reappears, and this is much too close. Like, you can't blame him for disengaging. It's like on top of the curb. It's probably fine, but it's way, way, way too close, and it's going to make everybody uncomfortable in the car. So there's probably, I already mentioned one solution, but another solution is potentially making like a minimum distance from the curb as we try and force the turn. And I think that combined with training the database a little bit more on that particular type of image will help. Now, another interesting thing is the ultrasonic sensors are not seeing the curb. So that's a little bit more tricky to set what I said before, like a minimum distance, because if the ultrasonic sensors can't pick up a low curb, then they're not going to really be of much use. And I've noticed this when I'm using Summon, Smart Summon, I should say, and it's in a parking spot. There's been one time where I have forgotten to verify the route of the Smart Summon, and it's going forward instead of going backwards, and it can't see the curb that's really close. That's going to be something that's really dangerous with Smart Summon. It can see it if it's like leading up, but if you start the car scratch with the curb like right on top, it actually can't see that curb. If you want to experiment with that, you're more than willing to. But I've done it once where I've ran over a curb finder And thankfully it didn't do any damage. But I think it has, the ultrasonic sensors are such to where they're angled slightly upwards so they can detect higher obstacles like cabinets as you're pulling in the garage, other vehicles, and the such. Because if you pointed them down, it might see under the vehicle at that kind of like 6 to 8 inch curb height. So I think three things are playing in. Ultrasonic sensors can't see. The database needs more training at curbs when they're at like angles like that, because you can't have a moment of indecision. And then maybe the forcing function can take into account the curb distance as it's doing its projected path. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this analysis of FSD Beta 10.1, and don't forget to like and subscribe.